Today, stablecoin issuer Circle goes public on the NYSE, and Congressman Bryan Steil breaks down yesterday's hearing on a crypto market structure bill. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Tanea McKeel. Cryptocurrencies in the red this morning. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin dipped less than 1%, trading at $104,500. Ether slipped 3% to $25.90, and Solana dropped 4% to just under $151. Let's get to the big story of the day. Circle's public debut, the stablecoin issuer listed on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker CRCL after a multi-year push to bring the company onto U.S. markets. Shares opened at $69.50 after pricing at $31 per share the night before, a 124% gain and far above the initial range of $27 to $28 expected earlier this week. Shares soared as high as 235% at one point. Now, Circle CEO Jeremy Allaire spoke to CNBC's Money Movers ahead of the first trade.
I think we're building a major new internet platform infrastructure company. We're bringing the infrastructure of the internet to the financial system. We are trying to upgrade the dollar to the internet, and we're trying to make this all work, whether it's capital markets or how money moves. And so our mission has always been around this. And so ultimately, when the internet collides with a major industry, this time the financial industry, and you have companies that can demonstrate that they can build scale and be profitable and drive technical innovation, there's a lot of demand for that.
All right, let's shift gears and focus on crypto regulation for our main story. The House Financial Services Committee held a hearing yesterday on the Clarity Act, a bipartisan bill that hopes to establish a regulatory framework for digital assets in the United States. Crypto World's Mackenzie Sagalos spoke to Bryan Steil, chairman of the Subcommittee on Digital Assets, about that hearing and what to expect for the Clarity Act.
So you held a hearing yesterday on the Clarity Act, a bipartisan bill that you helped introduce. Let's start with the core of it, creating a framework for registering digital assets, defining exemptions for DeFi, and clarifying which regulator oversees what. How did you and your colleagues go about crafting the bill, and how involved was the industry in that process?
What we wanted to do is step away from the last 4 years, which provided a lack of clarity for innovation and development in this space. The core goal is to make sure that we're having investment in Web3 technology and blockchain here in the United States. We're outcompeting China. We're providing safeguards for consumers. We talked to a whole host of stakeholders all across the spectrum, as well as members and senators, to make sure that we're getting this right. Again, with the focus of being, let's make sure it's clear where the regulations are so that we're encouraging innovation and development here domestically.
And this bill draws a very clear line between the SEC and the CFTC when it comes to oversight of the crypto industry. Why was it important to divide those responsibilities between existing agencies rather than create an entirely new regulator, as some have proposed?
Well, the regulators currently under the SEC and the CFTC are actually pretty good with the Trump appointments that we have. The concern would be what would happen if we ever slip back into an era as we had, in particular with Gary Gensler, at the Securities and Exchange Commission. And so we have an opportunity to really rein that in, to lay down the rules of the road, make it clear which regulator has authority in which given space. That stability, I think, will really allow innovation and development to come. Why? Because capital needs certainty before investments are going to be made. And so we think this act moves forward, provides that clarity, and investment will follow. Again, all with an eye towards making sure that we're developing blockchain technology and Web3 here in the United States.
What does engagement with your Democratic colleagues look like so far? Some have signed on to the bill, others have raised concerns about stablecoin legislation moving through Congress. So what have those conversations been like?
We've had great conversations with an array of Democratic colleagues who understand the importance of this industry. This shouldn't be partisan in nature. This should be looking at how do we make the United States of America strong. So we have some great supporters from all across the ideological spectrum, from Angie Craig from Minnesota to Richie Torres of New York, along with strong colleagues, obviously, on the Republican side as well. And so a lot of this is making sure that members, representatives, and senators understand the underlying technology, why regulation is important in this space. And I think what we continue to see is a developing understanding of the importance of this legislation and of getting this legislation correct.
So there's been ongoing scrutiny around the president's ties to crypto, including the Trump token and related projects. Is that clouding progress on broader crypto legislation? And if so, how do you move past it to advance bipartisan bills like this one?
We hear that from folks that don't want to dig in on the substance of the bill. Actually, if you go back and watch the House hearing that we had this week on the Financial Services Committee, what you saw was some really good engagement from a large number of our Democratic colleagues, and then standard Trump derangement syndrome complaints by others. The substance of the bill wasn't really critiqued by my Democratic colleagues. They just jump in and say Trump, Trump, Trump. We should be focusing on making sure that we get this right. This is our opportunity to turn the tide away from simply meme coins, which were really given the breath of air by Gary Gensler, and making sure that we remove fraudulent actors in this space. This is all about getting this correct so we see innovation and development here. And I think at the end of the day, more and more members are understanding the importance of this legislation and can step away from the partisan bickering that we often see on Capitol Hill.
So you had a number of witnesses speak in favor of the Clarity Act at the hearing, but what else did you learn from their testimony? Are there perhaps parts of the bill that you're now reconsidering or planning to revise?
I think in some ways we heard some of our colleagues maybe not have a full grasp of the underlying bill. That's an opportunity to continue to inform and educate folks across the spectrum as to what this bill does and what it does not do. We also heard great support for the legislation, a real understanding of the need to move quickly in this space. We're always open to feedback from stakeholders across the ideological spectrum. And I think we now have a big opportunity as we move to a markup next week, which was just announced, to make sure that we make any amendments or adjustments that are needed to the legislative text, again, with the end goal of making sure that we have this signed into law before the start of August.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.